And we want to welcome all of His Glory Nation from east to west to north to south. Welcome to today's Take 5. All right, we have John Gordon with us today. John, welcome.
Thank you, Pastor Dave. Great to be back with you.
Good to see you. So, why don't you give our audience, if you can, just a little bit of background about your show and how they can tune in?
Well, we're on the John Fredericks Radio Network, 8 cities, 22 AM and FM radio stations every Saturday from noon to 2. You can also join us on social media where we live stream. You can interact with us on getter.com, as well as check us out on Facebook, X, TikTok, Instagram, and Truth Social. And all of our past episodes are right there on johngordon.tv.
Excellent. So, John,
Thank
what
you
do you?
for that invitation?
Yeah, you're everywhere.
Shameless self-promotion.
What do you see? What are the things you're looking at today in the world, the United States? I mean, we got several things going on. Unprecedented. President Trump today with generals and admirals, and then you got the shutdown in about 12 hours and 50 minutes. What are some of your thoughts on the State of the Union?
I have very mixed emotions, frankly. The assassination of Charlie Kirk, I think, really put me back on my heels. It made me very sad, and I'm still sad. And now I'm going through the stages of grief, and my sadness is rapidly turning to anger, because the more I dig, the more I realize there are so many anomalies and so many things that don't make sense. There were And one of the most significant pieces of evidence that I've learned thus far came out of Redacted yesterday. And they had 2 Navy SEAL expert marksmen on, and both of them said they could not have made the shot where Tyler Robinson, we are told, took the fatal shot. They said you would had to have been much closer. Also, an AR type rifle would not have made a small protrusion like we saw with Charlie's assassination. It would have done significant, unbelievable damage to his torso and head. So it's painful and it's difficult to have that conversation because, I knew Charlie. We were not close friends, but we knew each other well. He has been on the truth, and I've had many pleasant exchanges with him in Palm Beach. He spoke to our Palm Beach Republican Party Club, where I introduced him and was with him. I also was invited to meet with him privately about 10 months ago. We had an hour-and-a-half conversation that I thoroughly enjoyed. I've never known in my entire life a smarter human being. Yeah. And I also tell you, I've never known someone that was more genuine and convicted in their faith than Charlie Kirk. And it is a loss to this world that he is no longer with us. So that makes me sad. It also makes me pessimistic about where our country is headed. I want to know who did it. Yep. And we need to know, and we need to hold them accountable. We've got to stop this madness. And the madness is coming at us from so many different directions, from Russia, from China, from within, like in Portland and Chicago, where we've got thugs that are murdering people, and there's open lawlessness without accountability. And this buffoon, Governor Pritzker, doesn't want the National Guard to come into Chicago to restore order. Well, if you don't want him, then why doesn't he do it? He can bring the National Guard in. He can bring the state police in, but they're just sitting idly by and watching as Rome burns, and are somehow trying to justify their negligence or incompetence. It's enough to make you very upset. Now, can I keep going for one more second?
Yeah, go ahead. And then I want to follow back up on something President Trump just said that ties exactly what you're talking about. Okay.
Well, and that I was leading to President Trump, frankly. I think that we are watching in real time as he dismantles the deep state. Mm-hmm. And, I would go in headstrong, combatively, and confront them. He's not. He's doing it very strategically and surgically. Chapter 1 was Tulsi Gabbard's revelations about the Russia hoax. We now know that Obama, Clinton, Clapper, Brennan, and Comey orchestrated it. and perpetrated a fraud on the American people and lied to Congress in the process. Their day is coming. Comey's the first. Christopher Wray, I think, is going to follow on his heels because he lied to Congress. He said, we had 26 agents in January the 6th. Now we know we had 250 agents provoking violence at January the 6th. I think that's going to be the third chapter of the book. I think with Fani Willis now being subpoenaed and bringing her travel records to the grand jury in Virginia investigating Comey, that we're going to have chapter 4, and it'll be the unraveling of the 2020 election, and that we will prove positive that it was stolen. That, I think, combination of those things is going to produce the catalyst that we've been waiting for, and that is the outrage of the American people. This nonsense has got to stop. These people are destroying the greatest country on earth. I don't know how they rationalize their dastardly deeds, but I am fed up with it, and I am ready for accountability.
Yeah, I believe it's coming.
Accountability.
I believe it's coming. I was a kind of a naysayer for a while, too, that nothing would happen. But I have talked to some people in some high places, and I'm assured, and I believe it, that accountability is coming. But I want to go back to something President Trump just said when he was with these generals and admirals, unprecedented, 100 and some generals and admirals. In my lifetime, I've never heard of a president sitting with that many military. But the key phrase that came away from this, he says, we're under invasion from within. That's fascinating words that he said. And going back to Charlie Kirk, Charlie Kirk has been on His Glory many times. I have some really good intel sources. I was shown probably about 5 days ago of forensics of the shot. And these two videos that I was given, vetted by key people, and I'm told the FBI has these. There is no question, no ifs, ands, or buts. The shot came from the other way.
Well, I don't know about the other way, but if Tyler Robinson was, say, at 11 o'clock from Charlie, what I've watched is that the shot came from 2 o'clock. And there are those who believe that it came from behind, and that the blood that we saw on his neck was actually an exit wound. I don't know. I really don't. I've watched the video. Pastor Dave, I refused to watch the video. I've consciously made the decision I was not going to watch it. And then I was on X one day, and there it was, blam, right in my face. I saw it before I had time enough to shut it off. And what it did was it ignited my passion and my fire, because it is so inhumane and so wrong. And I just cannot believe that in 2025, in this great nation of ours, that something like that could have occurred. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what evil forces brought it. But I went on a radio show yesterday, and the interviewer asked me, well, who were my suspects? And I said, well, there are any number of suspects. There's the deep state. Yep. My wife, who is totally apolitical, said that they assassinated Charlie Kirk because he was having too much of an impact. He was actually registering young voters, and they were all registering Republican, and they were getting back to Christian values, and that somebody doesn't like that. Imagine that. Yeah. Who would not like registering people to vote, and especially bringing them to Christ? I mean, help me understand that, unless they're just consumed with sheer evil. And that is my conclusion. I think other possible suspects, Candace Owens has been very thorough in her investigation on this. She has said that there are alleged, Charlie was aware of financial irregularities within Turning Point. Mm-hmm. And maybe there are bad actors who have infected Turning Point. That is a possibility that we cannot discount. And their secretiveness over the circumstances, and they're not releasing the video that they have in their possession, makes me highly suspect. I mean, what's there to hide? The truth shall set you free. Yeah. Show us the evidence so the American people can form their own conclusions. And I don't think that you can just gloss over the possibility of that Mossad and the Israelis may have been involved. Now, I'm not accusing any of those people, but there is smoke in each of those circumstances, man, when I said that about the Israelis, the interviewer said, well, you're a liar, and that is a lie. And when all else fails, just blame the Jews. And that's not what I was doing at all.
We'll be right back with John right after this. We'll pick that right up after the break, John. Billion Soul donation. Become a Billion Soul partner. By giving $30 or more monthly and support our mission to reach 1 billion souls for Christ. And a thank you, you'll get receive a copy of my book, All for His Glory, and also enter to a chance to win a once-in-a-lifetime trip to either the Footprints of Paul, which is our trip to Greece next year, or our trip back to Israel. So we're going to be having 2 big trips next year back, taking a group back to Israel, and the first time ever, the Apostle Paul footprints in Greece. It's going to be a magnificent trip. All right, we're back with John Gordon. Our commercials are sometimes pretty entertaining. So let's get back to Charlie Kirk. And I guess, John, I can't speak for you, but speaking for me is the point of everything we're bringing up, that there's a deeper story to this, and we can't just let it go. We have to find out the truth on what truly happened to Charlie Kirk.
Well, Dave, my message consistently for the last 4 years is that we've got to have a cleansing in America. And the only way I know to do it, sunshine is the best disinfectant. Yeah. And I think that the leaders of this country, I don't know what constrains them from sharing the truth with the American people, but we see it replayed time and time again. And I don't know what they are hiding. And it just may be bigger than all of us. Maybe there are forces at work on our country that we legitimately cannot explain or reveal, lest we not be in a position to defeat them. That is a possibility that I've considered. I really there's a piece of me that hopes that the reasons are for good purposes. That would be a legitimate purpose. But beyond that, I can't think of any other than to save somebody's rear end and to protect them from illegal, immoral, vile deeds that have been perpetrated inside our own country. Now, I'm going to Dallas in a month to go to the 60th or 65th, I'm not sure, anniversary of JFK's assassination in Dealey Plaza. There are 3 separate conferences that are going to go on there, and I'm going to attend as much as I can. I know I would go to my death saying that our own government killed the 35th president of the United States. Why are the American people tolerating that? Why are we not resorting to every form of outrage that we have short of violence to protest keeping the truth from the American people? Yeah, we've gotten a trove of documents, but you know what we got? We got documents after the Congress passed a law 20 years ago saying that on this date, all the files would be released. And do you think the perpetrators of Dallas allowed the smoking gun to exist in those files? Right. It was shredded and disposed of probably before the law was ever passed. I mean, the cover-up was mammoth. And and it's not just JFK's death, okay? There were 50 people minimum, maybe as many as 100, that were witnesses that had information that would cause the thread to unravel that were killed. We could spend 2 or 3 hours talking about it. Anyway, this madness has got to stop. Somebody has got to have the guts to inform the American people and hold these people accountable and stop it. Just stop it.
Right. Well, there's several positive things that are coming out of this. One, to your point to the American people, I don't believe they believe this. I don't know if it was a Rasmussen poll. It was 80% of Americans don't believe that the shooter was who they say it was. And Steve Bannon's War Room said every single one of his viewers said it wasn't the shooter. But the positive of this is church attendance is up 15%. People who are in the middle, they see this as really what I see it as. This is good versus evil. And if evil exists, then there's got to be good. And people are going into churches. People are reading Bibles. This was I think 1 million Bibles sold in that month. It was the largest increase of Bible sales maybe ever. So Charlie is leaving a legacy, and I've been with him many times behind the scenes where in private, he could have talked about anything he wanted to talk about, but he always put back on Jesus. So you mentioned his intelligence. He's extremely intelligent, but I think it was more than intelligence. I believe he was anointed by God to bring in the lost harvest. And he's that servant candle right now that's lighting the world for the truth, because this is a battle between light and dark.
Well, I'm willing to go there with you 100%. I've worshiped God. I pray every day. I pray every day for the future and survival of our country, for my children and grandchildren. And I love this country. I'm passionate about the country and the opportunities that it has afforded us and the freedoms that it has afforded us. And, for a long time, I never consciously thought about good and evil. I really just sort of had this paradigm. Well, some people just were born into circumstances less than what I was fortunate to have inherited and in life, and the advantages that I've been able to enjoy. But then I had a conversation with my preacher one day, and I was having a really rough day. And he said, and this is Reverend Anthony Motley in Atlanta, who is the pastor of one of the larger African-American churches there. And he's just has so much wisdom. And I said, Anthony, I just can't figure this out. We're supposed to love our neighbor and turn the other cheek, but there is so much meanness and cruelty in the world. And if God made man in his image, then I just have to ask you, what is the matter with God? And I don't mean to be disrespectful to our Lord and Savior. I'm not being. It's humorous to make a point. And he said, "Oh no, God, John." He said, "It's not God. It's that little brother of his." And it was the first time that I was called to actually consciously face the fact that there is true, to your point, real evil in this world. And we're in a battle to defeat evil. And we have to use appropriate means to do it. But, my youngest son, who I love and adore and gave me every gray hair in my head, somehow, and I can tell you the story, and it's a good one someday, but he was brought to God. And his babysitter from when he was 8 years old, who he was a ring bearer in her wedding, hadn't seen her in 10 or 15 years. I'm telling the story anyway. And they saw each other at a sandwich shop, and she said, "Well, Grayson, let's have lunch together." They sat down, they had lunch, and she started to witness to him. And it put him on a mission to read the Bible and discover God. And he is now this troubled child of mine. I hope he doesn't mind me saying this. I think everybody kind of knows it. But he is now leading Bible studies and has gotten his life on a wonderful path. And I'm so proud of him. But I'm really thankful to God for having created that chance encounter. I don't think it was by accident. I think it was absolutely divine intervention.
Amen. The definition of darkness is the absence of light. And part of that, a lot of that has to do with the church. When the church becomes neutral in the government, we just say, you know what, we're not going to get involved. The dark comes and raises its evil. And the more light we can shine of the Christ, the less darkness there's going to be.
Well, I think it was the last conversation I had with Charlie. No, it was I think it was. We were talking about all the manipulation that goes into our society these days, and all these that they accuse people of: sexist, racist, homophobic, misogynist. I don't even know what that is, frankly. Globalist, unipartyist. I don't know. It just goes on and on and on. And we had this conversation on the air that it's designed to silence us. No one wants the reputation of being a bad person. And that's what those labels effectively communicate. And there is a preacher in West Palm Beach, Florida, who stood up in the pulpit the other day and said, "I understand this argument about gay rights and gay marriage, but I'm just here to tell you that's not what the scripture sanctions. Yeah. And I am not going to stand here before you and lead you down the primrose path to believe that if you're in that kind of a relationship, that it's sanctioned by God." And I was like, wow, number one, that guy's got guts. And number two, he is being truthful.
Yeah.
And like it or hate it, it is truthful. And that's what we need. He's not intimidated by the labels. Neither was Charlie.
Nope. And that's what we need. We need more truth. We have about 2 minutes, 2 minutes left, John. Talk about the hope. There is hope for this country. We are all waking up, and I believe Charlie was the spark, and pun intended, the turning point, not for just this country, but for the world.
That's undeniable. And you're much more well studied on the Bible than I am. I have this paradigm that God did not lead Charlie to that form to be assassinated. I just don't believe that. I attended a young person's funeral many years ago, and the pastor said, let me tell you something. This was not anything that God did. He is grieving with you right now for the death of this child, but he will use the death of that child for his good and the good of his people. And I think that's what's playing out. I think God is grieving. My hope and belief is that God is grieving with Erica Kirk and her children right now, and a legion of millions of people across the world. And now he is going to use his martyrdom to help spread the gospel and bring people closer to him. I'm all about it. And I agree with you, Pastor Dave. That is the best chance of our salvation that we've got.
Yeah, we noticed that going around the country the last 4 or 5 years with General Flynn. Christians were learning how to be patriots. Patriots were coming in and giving their life to Christ. And now the two are converging to one for such a time as this.
100%. And I just had a conversation with a guy that is a scholar and has studied the history of America and our greatest patriots from the early days of the founding of our country. And he made the same observation. And we both agreed that in order to save this country, it's on each of us, every single one of us. And Newt Gingrich told me recently in the last year, we had a conversation. I said, guy, you're getting up there, Newt, and you're still swinging at the plate. He said, I will be a citizen of this country until the day that I die. Mm-hmm. What a great life lesson to learn by. And I know that people are busy. They've got their jobs, they've got their wives or their spouses, their children, the curfews, the grades, the Little League, the football.